Welcome to All Things in the Name of Love. If you like this show, please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks. Go. Welcome to another episode of All Things in the Name of Love. And today I have with me beautiful soul Zachary Dyson, who, among other things, is a spiritual intuitive coach, an astrologer, and a tarot reader. And I saw a video, I've been watching him for a while, and I saw a video last week, and I got this very big, gotta ask him to be on a podcast because his light is so bright. And I'm just so grateful that you said yes. And I'm so grateful that you're with me.
Thank you. Hello.
So tell me a little bit about your spiritual journey. Like, how did you get into this? Like, when did you feel the calling to do it?
Yeah. The calling. I think that's an interesting question because calling wise, I really stepped into this capacity at the end of last year after a series of tower moments, years in the making that really was dismantling my experience or my old life, getting me ready for this. But when I was 3 years old, I fell out of a bunk bed and had a traumatic brain injury. And since then, the doctors now describe it as narcolepsy. So I do have what they call narcolepsy, but science doesn't know what narcolepsy is really.
Right. Right.
But they think it's kind of started because of the traumatic brain injury. So experiences have kind of been lifelong, but never really gathering any meaning from it until these last couple of years, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hasn't felt too beautiful, but I think here we are. Here we are. It's okay.
Oh, I get it. I get it. I've had lifelong what they call dyslexia.
Oh, yep.
When I was in grad school, I actually reprogrammed my neural pathways because I put parameters on myself saying I can't fail.
Yep.
I had 3 books to read a week. And
Wow.
so, like, and everyone was like expecting me to fail.
Hmm.
Like, okay, well, that's just not going to happen. So I'd start reading and I fell asleep for like 2, 3 hours, and I'd wake up and I'd be able, it's a grad school read, so I'm not actually reading every page, but like still,
Sure.
um, I finished the book. And then by the end of the semester, I didn't fall asleep anymore.
Awesome.
And so like that ability, and I wasn't aware of my spirituality then.
Hmm.
But I knew, and I didn't even know about epigenetics. I just knew that I had to get this done, and I did it. And now I don't really have it anymore. And
That's
that's
awesome.
boggling to so many people, but it's just neural pathways.
Right, right. Just the computer running the machine. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Yep.
it's really interesting. Like when we actually begin to understand that on a deeper level, it just,
It
yeah,
opens up a lot of doors. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
what has your been like? Because you mentioned that you've really expanded in the past year or two. Like what have you noticed from your previous self to your current self that has been the most, oh, sorry
No,
for
that's okay. I think what comes to mind for me, the most difficult part of my journey has been surrendering into whatever this experience is, especially so kind of back to the trauma when I was a kid, just because it does so severely impact.
yeah,
There's a lot of traumatic reactions to even feeling dizzy. And when we're talking about spiritual work and energy work, there's a lot of spinning that can be involved,
yeah,
especially as we're leaving the body, right? Examining some other realms.
yeah,
So there was a need to really surrender to the fear of even what it was I was experiencing physically. And that took some time. That took some
yeah,
time and some beating things down, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Because fear is like so lodged in our amygdala, in our reptilian brain, in our
yeah.
sympathetic nervous system, and to like unwind that. I didn't even know I was anxious until about 2 years ago because I'd
That's
repressed it
interesting, right?
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like when I finally realized it, and then my body's like, oh, she's paying attention to us.
He sees me.
Yeah, and it was like this whole thing. So now, because I've done so much somatic work, it's like I feel that sensation, and I just stop everything and I'm just present with it. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, you come first.
Hmm.
And so now I don't really have it anymore, but it's just like the fact that I repressed it so much because it scared
Hmm.
me so much.
Yeah, similar, very similar to me. It
Yeah,
was this, and that's a very cyclical then reaction where the anxiety is triggering more anxiety and panic. Yeah.
right. Right. And
So
it's all,
spinning feelings.
yeah, and it's all
Yep.
just for us to be present with.
Yep. The
And
breath. That has been the biggest difference. Okay, actually, that's
mm,
what's coming through to me. Connecting with my breath, which is bringing us into the present moment. So absolutely, that's been the
mm,
difference.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And how you mentioned that you're seeing clair abilities come on.
Hmm.
Um, how has that been for you?
Oh gosh. Okay. Let's dive into that. All right.
Yeah.
So to kind of incorporate narcolepsy in here again, because I can't really
Yeah.
separate this from my experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, this is just what science calls this. I personally feel that it's well, I'm kind of walking between realms, never really fully awake, never really fully asleep. So there's a constant connection to the spiritual realms and to the physical realm, and not having instruction on how to manage that or even what was
Yeah.
going on until the last few years has
Oh.
been well, kind of maddening and disillusioning to my own Claire type abilities. It really wasn't until, like, I've always had intuition and things
Mhm.
like that, but it wasn't really until starting this channel where I started to get feedback, from clients on, like, just how accurate maybe something is and
Yeah.
how that feels in my body when it comes through in an accurate way. Particularly in falling asleep and waking up. They call them hypnopompic and hypnagogic hallucinations.
Okay.
So there's this slide into REM sleep, which is not typical for most people. That has happened to me my entire life since I was young. There's always been a fear of sleep and daytime naps as well, because sleep paralysis and things like that can happen. I, as we're talking about fear, anxiety,
Yeah.
I knew when I was younger that there were components of my experience that I shut down because I was scared.
Yeah.
Um, I was, not really assisted very well in what was going on. Most of the time, I was just kind of told it's in your head. Go back to bed. It's in your head, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the abilities have always been there, but I knew that they'd come back at some point, and they seem to be opening up quite quickly
Mm.
recently, and that's exciting. Actually, it's very exciting.
That's beautiful. I have a similar experience. Like I was astral traveling.
Yeah.
I was the kid that knew everything and it freaked my family out. So I just shut it down,
Hmm.
because I recognized that I have family members that have been institutionalized. Like
Hmm.
a grandparent on both sides. I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna happen with me. So I'll just pretend that I'm normal. That did
Whatever that
not work
is.
at all. But
Yeah.
I tried and things would come through and come through. And when I started doing body talk, which is the modality that's the basis for what I do with animals, um, and I started hearing the animals talk to me, I was like, okay, this is interesting. But like then I saw the results. I'm like, okay, well, this is cool because like I'm the channel
Yeah.
and then because I'm open to it, about 2 months ago, I had a sheep in England who was going to be put down because she was lame.
Hmm.
The woman who's the companion for her, because I use different language, um, emailed me in panic, said, I don't know what to do, and she's otherwise healthy. Can you help? And I said, well, I don't know. Let's see, because I never know. The sheep, now normally I work with a picture because that's my comfort zone, right? I can read energy, I can feel your energy. I get reading
Sure.
energy, I'm really good at that.
Yeah.
Before she sent me the picture, the sheep came into my field and was like giddy
Mm.
because she knew that I was going to help her. And I'm like, okay. So I'm feeling this energy of the sheep in my heart space. And we do the session. And at one point, she's got energy trapped in her elbow, her right elbow. Tune in.
Okay.
The energy is heartbreak.
Mm.
Her brother had just died.
Oh,
So we deactivated it, and within a week she was walking again.
wow.
And that's when and when I was complete, I got the most, it was like Kuan Yin level of gentle compassion, love, grace into my
Yeah,
heart. Just cried.
that's I have a nice Kuan Yin statue here.
I love Kuan Yin, and I know that feeling. And so, like, for a sheep to come in and give me that, I was just so blown away that I was gifted this ability to help these ones. And so
Mhm.
since then, animals are talking, like, not just, I'm not just doing energy sessions where I'm actually like listening and channeling the information through the body talk system.
Mm.
They're actually having conversations for me to convey to their companion humans.
Mm. Well, we're gonna need to talk separately, I think.
Yeah, because but it's just so beautiful that, like,
Yeah,
because I'm surrendering, and I've already told Source, I'm like, you give me somebody to work with, I'll work with them.
sure.
I have no, there's no conversation about my worth. I know what my worth is. I'm not turning anyone away who needs me.
Mm,
And
mhm.
it's a pet, it's a farm animal, it can be an orca, it can be a gorilla. I don't care what it is. If it needs
Yeah,
help and I can help, let me do it. And
yeah.
that's the surrender. This whole process of me traveling is surrender, because there's, limiting beliefs about what home is.
Mm, mhm.
I'm home, right? I'm
Yeah,
home
yeah.
wherever I am. And so it's just been this really fascinating unwinding of who I think I am.
Yeah, deconditioning, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think about there's a starseed oracle card in one of these decks where they talk about the difference between the fated life and the destined life. Like we start off here in the fated life, our factory settings, maybe decisions were made in how we started here. That's a part of the illusion that we need to break through or decondition so that we can move into our fate or our destined life. And
Yeah.
like you're talking about using the abilities, being comfortable maybe with not knowing why you're using it, what the purpose is, or who's going to, is it going to be an orca? Is it going to be a gorilla next?
Yeah.
That takes a lot of not only trust in what's going on out here, but here first. And
Yeah.
that's I think that's the hardest step for most
Yeah.
of us. It was definitely the hardest for me, learning to trust what my body was saying.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's been really fascinating. I was recently guided, and I still don't really understand why, to enroll in Quantum University to become a
Mm,
doctor of holistic health for animals.
awesome.
So I'm learning about the physical, vital, mental, supramental, and bliss bodies.
Mm,
Everybody else has been through the program, worked with humans.
okay.
I'm the first one that's coming through.
How exciting.
And it doesn't, I don't care about the titles. I really don't
Yeah,
care. I've
yeah,
already been through
sure.
that program because I already have a PhD, and it's like, okay, whatever, I don't care. That was a journey that I had to do to get through it.
Yeah,
This is how much can I learn to help animals?
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love
And
that.
but like my small self is like, what are you? Why are you back in school? I mean, didn't you
Yeah.
spend enough? I mean, 14 years in college. Really? Do you have to go back?
We're still paying those loans. I'm just
But
kidding.
it's like, it's not me. It's my
Right.
higher self coming through me saying, no, you need to learn these things because you're going to be very busy very soon, and you need as many
Yeah.
tools as you can to help as many as you can.
Yeah.
So,
That's so wonderful. I love that.
what are you feeling like right now? Like, I know there's been lots of X and M class flares, and the Schumann resonance is going on, and there's all the astrological stuff. How have you been navigating that?
Um, one moment at a time. It's been for me especially just this constant stream of debilitating headaches, really. Recently it's starting to kind of lift, but the flares especially, my gosh, that was some intense work that was going on up
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
It feels particularly right now being in Scorpio season, Pluto retrograde into Capricorn, it feels like the pressure's on. So I did a reading here recently. Galactic Royalty was one that I did 5, 6 months ago that came through, and it really blew up. I just channeled the second part to that message here yesterday, actually, and um, absolutely, I'm getting chills even thinking about it. It was such a beautiful message. I get symbols that
Okay.
come through with sigils kind of thing that have specific purposes. And for the reading yesterday, there were three different symbols. Two had already been channeled. One that came through that was new.
Oh,
And they're all to do with essentially like unfettering the burden to the heart,
mhm.
opening it up to receive, and then activating this portal that is
Oh,
the heart.
that's beautiful.
So back to today, like what's going on with Scorpio season being in death and rebirth here, and the karmic tie-ups with Pluto retrograde Capricorn, it's intense, especially off the tail end of all the flares, all of that. It's an intense time,
Yeah.
and I don't know anybody right now who's not feeling it, crying. The shadow coming full face to the shadow.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
fun. We're having fun.
Well, we are because we're learning how to remember who we are,
Yes, yes.
right? I get these
Yeah.
hits every once in a while, and like, it's not that I have mastered humbleness, very good at
Hmm.
being humble,
Yep.
and I'm getting kicked in the ass, for lack of a better way to say it, to stop being so humble and actually
Mm.
be the being that I'm being called to be more.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'm in Bend for 2 weeks, and I'm actually being guided to live here, which is amazing.
Hmm.
But until I'm done with my house sitting, I'm just a visitor right now.
Yeah.
I am being drawn to places to go to, like a women's drum circle. I'm going to this place called the People's Apothecary. I'm going to see if I can set up
Mm.
an event in December. Like, all these things are like coming through. Like, no, you need to stop it. Go out and share your light. And I'm like, I am sharing my light. I'm spending time with animals in different places.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
That
it's like,
really I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that was dead on with the message that came through the part two
Mm,
galactic royalty. It was about ego, and for most people, it was about needing to check it to come down, but there was a smaller message in that some people actually need a little more.
yeah.
And that's something that I've struggled with a lot of my life too, is pulling out of the shadow side of the ego and actually bringing it up a little bit more to have that confidence
Mhm.
and conviction in what you're doing, to not be shaken so much. Or what is it I said, like, this old thing, little old me, like, what am I, me,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to do this?
Yeah, it is, and
Why?
it's like, and this is exclusive of, I've had this podcast for 5 years, okay?
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
So, do I actively go out of my way and do all the fun, super high-end tech things to get more listeners? No, I do not.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
promote it, sure, I promote it, I'll share it with you, I
Yeah.
do that, so people know about it,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
like, I haven't actively done more than that, because it's just, this is service to source. Like, since I
Sure.
started, it's been like, source has asked me to do this, so I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I feel like right now in our time and consciousness, when there's so much chaos, to be able to be a light for that,
Mm.
it's like, if we have that light and we're aware of it, it's not an option.
Right.
Right? It's like, we gotta be the lighthouses, we gotta be the beacons, we gotta be like, yeah, I'm not scared of it. Oh, I'm getting chills when I'm saying this. Like, we are not, we're protected beyond anything we can imagine.
Yes, I get chills on that too. Yeah.
So go forth, young ones, go forth,
Yes.
even though
Yep.
we're, like, it's like we're young and I'm an ancient soul, you're an ancient soul, but like,
What is age?
it's like, this is the time, kids. This is the time. You've been waiting for this. You actually incarnated for this to help
Yes.
others remember their divinity.
Yes. Yes. Oh, all the chills. Woo.
I had a
Yeah.
girlfriend a few months ago. I was with her and I said, I'm here to fully remember my Christ consciousness.
Wow,
I
Christ
don't
consciousness. That's dead on.
I don't care what my limiting beliefs are. I'm going
Hmm.
to remove everything I possibly can so I can remember that divine being that I truly am. She said, that sounds really scary. I said, uh-huh. And I'm doing it anyways.
It's scary otherwise, right?
Yeah,
Choose your fear.
right.
Yeah,
It's like we're
yeah.
here to embody that. Like that I we are it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Christ consciousness, though, that is something that has been coming through a lot really
Mm.
this past couple of years as well. I think looking back on it, when towers really started to come down, that presence really made itself known to me very strongly. And I can see, I'm getting chills on that too, just where that was leading.
Ah,
Um, oh, I love that.
I do too. I
Yeah.
do too. It's just such a I'll give an example. Yesterday I did a crazy drive from Nehalem, which is on the Oregon coast, to Bend.
Yep.
I did not know that there was going to be an earthquake there yesterday on the coast.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But oh, mother, Mother Gaia, Mama Gaia,
Yeah.
shoved me out, kicked me out like before 10 o'clock in the morning. I was like gonna hang out until midday and then drive. Um, I get to Route 22, which is a way to get to Bend,
Hmm.
and I am gifted with like jaw-dropping inspiration of gorgeousness that she shows me, to the point where I'm like, I don't want to drive. I just want it, but I can't take pictures because I can't do justice to it. But I'm like just feeling like the river flowing, the colors changing, it was so magical. I felt like I was being welcomed here.
Yeah. Literally awesome. In a state of
And
awe. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like I've seen stuff like that before, but I haven't been that present to it.
Mm,
And so like really allowing myself to receive that that's there for us all the time.
right. Yeah.
And that return to the interconnectedness of all and the magic that this planet holds
Yep.
is one of the gifts we're getting called into more and more, is what I feel.
Yes. That I love just because I did channel the message yesterday. That is the main message of the second part. It was about
Amazing.
connecting our hearts. And I read for Aquarius today and there was
Which I am, so I'll listen to
are
it.
you? Oh, well, then
Yeah.
you're gonna love that. We were talking about the toroidal field.
Mm.
Particularly, so every atom in our body itself has a toroidal field. Our heart has a separate toroidal field. And this can literally be measured up to 5 miles away. So, as this is something we're talking about activating this portal, taking away the restriction and activating this, the portion that came through with this, the symbol was called Supreme, that activates this portal here. And I'm feeling that even. You are now connected was the part that came through as this is being activated. I feel like this is even that message. It is time. You're being activated. You're being called to move into what you came here to do. So it's time to start letting go the distractions, the illusion. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. Like I've noticed, so the class I'm taking now is anatomy and physiology.
Love it. Yeah.
It is such a low frequency.
Yeah.
I can't
It's
even,
very corporeal. Yeah.
it's like, so I've always been left brain dominated. Even my left
Hmm.
brain was like, seriously, why don't you just like copy the page notes for like when all the terms are? Because I am not memorizing any of this. And I was like,
Right. Right.
left brain, really? Because I've been playing in the quantum field and
Yeah.
biofields,
Hmm.
like all this amazing stuff, and I'm integrating, I'm loving it, and then I'm like, cluck, like
Yeah.
back to the 3D, and I was like, oh, this does not feel good.
I love to learn. Gemini Sun, Virgo Rising, Virgo Moon. I've got all of Mercury here. Love to learn, but you put me in structured learning. It's the first thing that I want to escape here for sure. Yeah. I don't want to be forced to learn. Yeah. I feel that. I I want to learn out here.
Well, I did the structured learning for a long time,
Yeah.
but my parents were both teachers and they knew the importance of critical thinking.
Yep.
So I learned critical thinking when it wasn't being taught, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I got my PhD in cultural theory because I wanted to understand how separation was created.
Love it.
Because I didn't understand it. Like since I was little, I'm like, what? Why is it weird that I have friends that are animals?
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Why is that a weird thing? Because they're sentient. Like, I just didn't get it. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, trying to understand it. And I mean, I love that part of me, that tenacious, like, I will find it. I couldn't find
Mm-hmm.
it. It's an
Ah,
illusion because, like, that whole separation is literally created by lower frequencies.
yep.
I mean, something as benign sounding as electricity separated rural and urban dwellers in Maine for 40 years.
That's true.
So,
Yeah.
like, that's all created.
Mm-hmm. And that creates different realities, like to have artificial light, the way that affects our sleeping and waking cycle. That those are two completely different realities. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, the more and more I surrender into that, like, I can talk to my DNA. I can talk to my
Right.
I can talk to my quarks. Because why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
Right? They're
You can
me,
talk
I'm
to every part
them.
of you. Yep. Yep. It's just energy. You
Yeah,
get down far enough to the molecular level, it is 99.99% nothing, right?
yeah.
And it's just energy. So it's all an illusion anyway. None of this is solid.
Mhm.
Why not be able to talk to it? Why not?
Right. It's
Yeah.
just, it's that play state. It's like, okay, we've been conditioned to behave certain ways. Um,
Yes.
and when I was hiking on the coast, I actually saw some sort of fae. I'm not sure what it was,
Mm,
but I saw a wave on two separate ferns, and it was like so fast, but I could see the wave, and there wasn't any wind. So it's
interesting.
and I'm like, I knew you were here. I could feel you. I could feel this. I could feel the energy signature of them. And then I didn't see them physically, but I saw their energy frequency, and I was like,
Sure.
that's so cool.
Yeah. They've been coming through a lot for me. So I haven't ever really had much connection to the fate. And gosh, well, I mean, back to the galactic royalty. I'm kind of blown away by some of the things that you're saying and just how connected it is to these readings.
I love
Even
it.
to the wave. I don't want to give things away, but like that
Oh,
was a part that came through with the space-time ripple.
wow.
But in the first one, it was this idea of like outside of light and dark, back to the state of non-duality. As we're expressed here, it is a dual experience, but we come from, well, it all comes from duality can't exist unless there's also non-duality, right?
Right. Right.
So there was a lot of conversation surrounding like it was Pan's Labyrinth that I brought up as an example,
Okay.
where at the end, as she passes, she goes back to this realm of like nature, outside of this realm of light and dark and the Fae. But I haven't really ever had a connection to it until I started doing this, and now lots of situations like that pop up too. It's fun. It's
It
interesting.
is fun. It's really fun.
Yeah.
And like I was in Orcas last year and I did not connect with any human being, but the
Hmm.
land and the trees and the orcas,
Yeah.
I didn't meet an orca, but I felt their energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got to do a meditation with some of the tribe that was canoeing around the islands.
Oh, awesome.
And I channeled Sarah Tamara, who's Mary Magdalene's daughter, and I never met
Yes.
her before. I know her name, but I
Yeah.
never felt her energy. But she had a very, I was like, whoa, what are you doing here? And she's like, well, you're meditating with tribes. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it's a whole different level. And because of that, there was a redwood on the island that actually had conversations with me.
Hmm.
And I've been connected with trees for decades, but I've never, like, I felt their energy. I hug them. I love them. They come to me in dreams. This one actually was like, you will sit with me, you will meditate with me, and I have stuff to download for you. And she gave me
Get
a
over here.
headache. I was like, I sat with her for 5 minutes. She gave me the worst headache I've ever had because she was downloading
Yeah.
so much in me. I'm like, okay, you need to like turn the spigot down a little.
Yeah. Turn it down or I need an Advil.
Right, because like they're so excited
Yeah.
that there's a human that can hear them, and they don't get our limited capacity in this 3D form because they think we're all light.
Right.
The light beings, which we're becoming, will be able to do that, but we're not quite there yet. We're still carbon.
Yeah. Still carbon. Yep. Last time I checked. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
How is
Nature has always been such a big, crucial, critical component to my health. And I would say, especially this last year or two, I actually have the luxury of living. I'm up here in the Pacific Northwest, but I have a wooded area that's right by my house. So I can all summer, spring, I've been getting out there, feet in the dirt. I have a spot to meditate on a rock. I have a tree as well. And this tree actually, it called out to me. And when I got to it, what I noticed was it's a tree that's been struck by lightning, so it grew into
oh,
two tops,
okay.
and it has like a big giant scar all down the side. I didn't see that until I got up to it, but it just felt so special to me to run
Yeah.
into this survivor of a tree. But same, I've had similar. If I can't get out into nature and converse in that way, then I get sick. It's critical. Yeah. Hmm.
When I got done with my drive yesterday, I stayed at one of my friend's houses and I was getting stuff out of my car and I heard ground now and Mama Guy just pulled me down. I'm wearing a
Hmm.
t-shirt and it's like 40
Hmm.
degrees. And I'm like, okay. And she's take your shoes off now and you're just gonna lay here for like 15
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, thank you, because I'd driven for
Hmm.
like 5 hours and so she knew, she's like, you came here, you got the welcome committee, go ground yourself now. And I'm like, and I can't, like, if I don't ground every day, I feel off.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. Yep.
It's like,
I get lost up here. Yep.
and tips. So hike, when you're done hiking,
Hmm.
ground.
Mm.
Because what it does is it recalibrates you.
Right.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
done 2 experiments with that, and both times, like, the second time I did it, I was on the beach after I was done, and I just burrowed my feet under the sand, and I just felt so much energy getting released, and my body
Hmm.
was like, "Oh, thank you so much, I'm actually feeling like I got rid of the aches."
Yeah, that totally makes sense because you're moving stuff through, but it needs somewhere to go. Just like if you're physically cleansing your body, you need something like a binder to pull the toxins out so they're not redistributed. Yeah, totally. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I've been
Take
wearing grounding shoes this
oh,
summer, so
good.
I've had the benefit of that
Oh,
connection as I'm hiking, which is you can really, if you are someone who's not even
yeah.
that sensitive, you can feel
Oh,
the
yeah.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah, I have mine somewhere in a storage unit. I don't know where they're
Yeah, yeah,
somewhere. I don't have,
yeah.
but yeah, like
You're in a liminal space right now. You're in transition, so yeah,
yeah,
that makes
but
sense.
like
Mhm.
I'll walk on rocks.
Yeah.
And when I was in Yosemite, I was guided. If you go slow enough, they won't hurt.
Yep.
And so it's a call for me to just like keep going softer
Hmm.
and slower,
Hmm.
and that's been one of my programs.
Okay.
Like my gene key, the base one says presence.
Hmm.
That's your goal. I'm like, that's
Yes.
so freaking amusing.
And that's what I pulled from as you're saying that. The slower you're going, you're present in that moment and you're feeling that connection to whatever it is that's around you so that you know how to respond real time to avoid injury or pain.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And it's at the point right now where like if I try to go fast, I will almost hurt myself.
Hmm. I think of like hitting water at
Yeah.
great speed. Yep. Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because like now that I know what my true state is, if I try to get out of it, it
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah. No, it wasn't working before, right?
Right, it wasn't working before, but I didn't know any better.
Yeah. We just know. Yeah. It's same. That's been my experience here
Yeah.
too. Thinking back on like, gosh, I was just I mean, the timing that it takes for us to wake up in the ways that we need to is, I think, divinely orchestrated as well. But as somebody with maybe it's so much mercurial energy, there's a lot of impatience typically. And you know what? I always say, like, it takes so long to be human. It takes time to talk. It takes time to shower, brush your teeth, eat. Everything just takes so much time to be human. I have to remind myself that it's okay. I feel, obviously in other dimensions or higher dimensional experiences, things happen a lot faster. We can download an entire conversation in no time at all. So that's one of my interesting peccadillos, I guess, coming through my own growth process is learning patience to be human.
Yeah, I get
Takes so
it.
long.
It's like, what? Why?
Yeah.
I have the tendency as well.
Hmm.
Um, and what I've been gifted with, I'll say that. Um, so I have a friend who does his breath work. His name is Nate Zelenak. He was on a podcast. Beautiful soul, beautiful soul. I did one of his
Yeah.
free trainings, and through his website, I was connected with this gentleman named Dr. Jeffrey Thompson, who does these brain entrainment things.
Okay.
One of the audios is Lambda. Lambda is
Ah,
beyond theta.
yes, it is.
And so I'm listening to that and I'm literally feeling things shift in me
Hmm.
because like I perceive myself as a big experiment.
Sure. Yep.
Mechanically, like I have frequency devices. I have like I just play. I play because I want to see what happens.
Yeah.
And that specific track takes me somewhere that I've never been before.
Can you explain that a little? I'm curious, just like as
Yeah,
someone
so
who experiences narcolepsy, I'm curious how you feel
so
lambda.
I go into almost a trance and I
Hmm.
can kind of hear it, but then I see things that I don't remember. Sometimes they're shapes, sometimes they're actual stories that come through, and I'm there, but I'm not, and I'm present to the music and I'm not, and I get done and I feel like I've slept like 6 hours.
Hmm.
And then my body's like, I don't even know what to do. Like my mind's like, I don't know what to do next. And I'm so I just like lay there and just be present and allow that to like flow through me because
Yeah.
it's just so beautiful. And I see like shifts in my awareness of who I am, shifts in how I'm showing up in the world. And it's subtle and it's not.
Hmm. I love this. I love this. If I remember correctly, so with lambda, there's also, is it epsilon fits inside of that wavelength with a
Mm,
very specific kind of relationship.
oh, cool.
So as you're describing like what you're going into that deep state, you're also tapping into a very high state. So that kind of experience is something that I feel most nights. Anybody can experience this, like where you go to sleep and you feel like you didn't sleep, but your body's asleep and something's going on with the mind.
Yeah.
That was actually when I went in for my sleep study. I didn't
Wow.
feel like I slept all night. I was like, well, shoot, I wasn't able to sleep, so we were able to figure it out. And they're like, no, you were asleep all night. That happens so frequently.
Is it
It's
like astral
interesting.
traveling?
Say again.
Is it like astral traveling?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. It's kind of like as we're talking about, and that came through the part two galactic royalty, separatist behavior. There is not a separation between any of this experience except for what we're agreeing to based on what we're seeing in this corporeal form. So I feel like in that state, what you're doing is maybe you want to consider astral traveling, but you're really just like tapping into the essence. You're feeling the lack of connection or boundaries, excuse me. You're feeling
Yeah.
the connection and lack of boundaries. So you can go anywhere because anywhere is all already here. But there
No,
are
I hate that.
definitely place or episodes, I guess, where I would say I could pinpoint, yes, I was traveling somewhere. I'm not sure where that was, but
Okay.
yeah.
That's cool. Like when I was little, I remember tying myself to the bed so I could come back.
I love that.
Because I didn't know, right? I'm like 6 or 7, and I'm like, okay, so I'm going somewhere tonight. Let me just tie my.
You knew, yeah, you knew. That's cute.
Cute. Yeah, and so now it's more like I just experience it, and
Yeah,
I know I'm going to come back because I know I have work to do in the world. Um,
right, right. When I was a
yeah,
kid, it was always there was a fear of like being lost, and I wasn't aware of that, so I just think that's cute and interesting that you did that, tying 44 on the timer, just have to point that out. Being aware that there was a need to like to tether, to remind yourself to come back into this
yeah,
form. There were definitely a lot of times where that was the fear, was like being lost, whatever that meant,
yeah,
not being able to find the way back here.
yeah, yeah, and it's like I didn't know anybody because I couldn't talk to anyone. I grew up
Right,
in Fairfield County, Connecticut in the 70s and 80s, so like there was nobody to talk to.
right. They're like, you're too young to be on hallucinogens.
Right, right. It's like, so how do I explain this to people who are very 3D?
Hmm.
When my grandpa died, he sat on my bed for 3 days to let me know,
Yeah.
hey, I they thought I was losing my mind.
Yep.
Well, no, he's right there because he was my best friend. So like
Yeah.
he was just trying to let me know that he's better, he's fine, he doesn't have cancer anymore, he's like in a better place. I'm like, yeah, but you're like, I could put my fingers through you. I don't understand this. And nobody could explain it to me.
Hmm.
And so like I didn't repress it because it was like too big of a thing, but I
Yeah.
talked about it
Hmm.
because nobody got it. Like,
Yep.
she's got it.
Yep. Okay. Yep. That was similar experience. I didn't know that what I was seeing was anybody in particular, but there were a lot of entities that were coming my way. I think it was confusing because it wasn't always in my bed, that someone was sitting on my bed. It was wherever it was that this was happening. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Um, I've been able to dissect or discern a bit more these days, and there's still, I know, more to learn about what's going on or what I'm capable of doing. But similar experience to just, yeah, if you talk to somebody about it. And I grew up LDS, so there was we did not talk about things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was kind of a double whammy, I guess. You're
Mm.
crazy and shut up.
I was small town Connecticut, congregationalist, and
Okay.
I remember talking to my minister once. I'm like, so how do you pray?
Hmm.
Greg Braden hadn't come up with like the actual way to pray. Um, he said, well, you just pray. I'm like, that's not an answer. Like,
Oh, okay.
what are the mechanics for praying? Like, do I like feel in my heart? Like, what's
Yeah.
the, like, I get to my desired state of being, and I don't ask for something, I command it to be so.
Hmm.
Well, that is just, whoa, we can't control you there.
Hmm. Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember actually hearing things when I was younger about because they talk about the veil. The veil, I think, is a common concept for the veil of forgetfulness. Having some children coming into this world where they can still see beyond the veil,
Mhm.
and them actually having to bless, so laying on of hands, anointed oil, and hands of those carrying the Melchizedek priesthood, to actually have that veil put back on them.
Wow.
And I just thought that was like, it didn't make sense. You know what I mean? I didn't know
Right.
how to think about that. Like, why, but why, like, if we're looking at it from that lens, if God is perfect, and
Mm.
this was the situation that this individual came through, is adjusting that not blasphemy? I mean, is it not
Yeah.
spitting in God's eye?
That's fascinating.
Just interest. Yeah, yeah. I've always kind of thought that's weird because it's a lack of control. No shame or blame towards any
Right.
organized religion or dogma, but um, it does have its roots in control.
Yeah.
And if you can't control, then what do? You blind.
Yeah. You
That was my
repress,
experience. Yeah. Yep.
you instill fear, you do everything you can to make that person believe, like the elephants and the chains. You take the chain off,
Yes.
the elephants will, you know, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Stockholm syndrome.
yeah, it really
Yeah.
is. And I think right now we're experiencing collective Stockholm syndrome in our country, in the world, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the the gift of all of these energies coming together right now is um, we're going to have opportunities to see who we really are more and more and more,
Yes.
and all
Yeah.
these illusions.
Lifting the illusion. Yep.
And there's a lot of it.
There is. Yeah. I'm seeing like makeup being wiped off, like clown
Mm,
makeup.
love it.
You know, I actually had that's interesting too. Was it Queen Elizabeth, the one who had or Victoria, the white face
Yeah.
with the red lips? I was watching something on YouTube the other day where, because it was like lead based, you know, what she was struggling with health wise was actually what she was trying to cover up was actually causing more of the issue. But it said, I guess when she died, she had like a quarter inch of lip paint on. So I see that kind of thing. Like there's been this
Wow.
process of what it is we've been using generationally, even to cover to ooh, oh, that's what's coming through. So we've been surviving through the group, right? Throughout our history, you stand out in any way, something's different than what it is that the pack is doing. This means death.
Mhm.
I believe, you know, we're shifting into an experience of survival through the self. And what does that mean? Not choosing authenticity over connection and not being reprimanded or persecuted because of that. Removing that makeup, the need for survival.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that so much because I've
Yeah.
had instances where I've learned how to choose myself,
Yep.
and having that conversation with one who doesn't know what what it is, it's fascinating because they're
Hmm.
like, "You're telling me to do something." I'm like, "Oh, no, no, I would never, ever ask
Right.
you to choose something. I'm merely choosing myself over this situation because it doesn't feel good for my soul."
Right.
And
Right.
that's like, what are you can't, but you can't, no, nobody does
You
that.
can't do that.
It's like, well, I know we haven't done that, but like that's what my soul is telling me, and I'm gonna listen to my
Yeah.
soul. And I'm sorry if that makes you feel uncomfortable, but I'm not in charge anymore. My soul
Hmm.
is, because she's the one that said you're gonna wake up and you're gonna remember and you're gonna lead by example. Doesn't matter if it's in a park, if I'm just walking by myself, I'm at the grocery store, I show up as that authentic being, that's gonna have ripple effects that I can't see.
Yes. Because of the heart. We can't, that's a portion that I was looking into because of this. You're going to love that Aquarius reading. But when we are in states of emotional dysregulation, when we're not in coherence with our body and the field of our heart, it creates a different pulse. Um, so if we're not standing in our own authenticity, then we're not living out our purpose. We're not attracting those things that we need to attract to expand, to break through that kind of illusion.
Yeah.
That's similar to, well, it feels similar. Last year before starting this channel, just as a quick breakdown, I was working for a company earlier that year and I ended up getting fired in July. And I started the channel in February, but didn't post anything because the job was taking everything from me. I had no time, energy, all day, every day. So being fired initially, it looked like, well, I don't know what to do. After 3 months of fighting for unemployment, I was denied, and I was left just like I have feel like I have nothing. And this was when I took that step into starting. I couldn't see anything that was coming, but I was getting that message that that's what needed to happen. So, and
Mhm.
don't we hear these stories all the time? When you step into that coherence, miracles happen.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it does. It's crazy because like you step into the fair when I was on the when I was guided to go up to Orcas, I had $200 in my checking account.
Mm.
And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that's not even the gas money from Shasta. That's just
Right.
so I was gifted funds along the way,
Yep.
enough so I could stay there for 2 months. And then I was told there's no way you're gonna get anything on Orca. There's no way. You just can't find
Mm.
housing on Orcas. I get on the boat, I'm shaking because I've never jumped off a cliff metaphorically this big before. I like moving someplace without a place to live.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have the money, I have my car full of food, and I head to the island. The first night, one of my girlfriends connects me with a former client who lives on the island, who invites me to a party the next day where I meet a woman 5 minutes before I leave who's looking for a roommate. Because I was brave enough to get on that ferry while I'm violently shaking because I'm
Yes.
terrified. The orcas are coming at me like, no, she's here. Oh my God, she's finally
Yeah.
brave enough to do this. It turned out to be one of the most magical experiences I've had in my life
Yeah.
because I
Of all the
trust.
children. Yeah.
Yeah.
That reminds me of that was a and thank you. Thank you for heeding the call. Just I mean, it's not
Thank you.
it's not easy. If it
No.
were easy, we'd all be
Right.
jumping.
Right.
But I had that message come through, especially a lot last year. Even starting the channel, there were still so many difficulties that I faced in moving forward, and still, there always will be. But the message my guides were telling me, how can we catch you if you don't leap? If you
Mm,
don't take that, like you can't be caught, you can't be supported, you can't find that woman who's renting a room until you gather the courage
yeah.
to take that leap. And I know I was stuck there. I think a lot of us get stuck in that place where we are paralyzed by fear and we're calling out to the divine and asking for assistance. But what we're not realizing or remembering is that we have to take that first step. We have to give consent to the entire process by physically creating motion. That
Mm-hmm.
definitely held me up for a while.
Oh, I get it. Like
Yeah.
I love home. I love having a nice
Yes.
kitchen. I love playing like that's an aspect of me that just thrives. I love baking, I
Yep.
love cooking, I like it. So like for me to like pick up and leave every 2 weeks, it's like, okay, so what can I ground myself with?
Yeah.
I make
Yeah.
chai every week. Perfect, because I have my
Hmm.
chai. And I make sourdough
Mm. Hmm.
because that process of mixing and being like really, really deep in presence grounds me.
Yep. Yeah.
So like if I have my sourdough and I have my chai, I can go anywhere. And my
That's
pillows.
awesome. Yeah. I do feel that call has been coming through for me too. There may be a little bit more travel for me in the future. Um, I have Venus Cancer. The way it aspects my chart, though, is some deep Cancer in my chart. I am very, um, my home is very important. That comfort at home. Yes, Jupiter, my Jupiter in Taurus as well.
Mm,
Um, that anytime I feel uncomfortable, there is this strong desire where I need to like. It's just been a lesson for me too. It's beautiful to see somebody be willing to find a way to deal with that, I guess, or to accentuate that process without without giving up on the process. Yeah,
oh yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
that's a good message for me, actually. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Yes, I am looking at the time and I'm realizing we could probably talk for a couple hours.
probably. Yeah.
And we will. But for now, I want to ask you the last question I always ask, which is how do people find you?
YouTube. The Divine Phoenix or Divine Phoenix Rising Tarot is my channel. Yep. I do also have a website, The Divine Phoenix Rising. You can check out personal readings and things, but I'm on YouTube. That's my YouTube. That's my presence here. Yep.
Thank you so much for this beautiful conversation, for the light that you are, and for all the work you do in the world, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome.